Reopen tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yeah.
I'll call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Parker, can you provide information on how to participate and comment?
Information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is available on this meeting's agenda, which is online at isearchmonterey.org, and we have physical copies printed in the back. For remote commenters, you will be muted until it is your turn to speak. And for in-person attendees, we do please ask that you keep your phones muted, any conversations to a minimal, just to avoid any audio interference with the meeting. And thank you all for participating in your city government.
Can you take roll call, please?
Yes. Aguajita Oaks. All right. Alta Mesa.
Present.
Thank you. Casa Nova Oaknall.
Here.
Deer Flats. Here. Del Monte Beach.
Here.
Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande. Here. Downtown.
Virtually there.
Yes, thank you. Fisherman's Flats. Here.
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 Monterey Vista. Here. New Monterey.
Here.
Oak Grove.
Here.
All right, thank you for joining. And committee member Adam, I do need to go with you since you'll be joining remotely. Go through the Just Cause attendance. For all committee members, the Just Cause has reset with the new year. Committee member Adam, have you been able to hear the proceedings up until now?
I hear you. Yes,
Okay, and do you have a copy of the agenda for the meeting?
I do.
And then could you
Yes.
please give a brief general description of the Just Cause for your need to appear remotely? This could be for family, emergencies.
It's a personal health situation.
Okay, thank you. And is anyone over the age of 18 with you in the room?
No,
Thank
I'm by
you.
myself.
And then can everyone hear committee member Adams? All right, thank you. All right, so moving on with roll call, Old Town,
Here.
Skyline. Hello. And Villa Del Monte.
Here.
Yes, and also for committee member Johnson, we will also be using for tonight's meeting for you to participate remotely. So have you been able to hear the meeting so far?
Yes,
And do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
yes, I do.
And could you please give a brief description of the Just Cause for you needing to appear remotely?
Disability.
Thank you. And is anyone over the age of 18 with you in the room?
No.
All right, thank you. And then can everyone hear committee member Johnson? Thank you. And we have forum.
All right, so we'll move on to general public comments. So this is a call for public comments on matters that are not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the NCIP. So if you're present in the room, if you could raise your hand, if you have any general comments. I see 2 hands in the room. Anyone online?
No comment online.
Okay, so we'll do 3 minutes each, and if you guys can come up to the podium and speak.
Oh, so polite. Evening. I just wanted to talk about one thing briefly. Oh, it's not on yet? How about now?
Yeah.
Right. 2 things briefly. I actually went back and listened to the October joint NCIP meeting recently. It was quite eye-opening, and sometimes, distance is your memory. So it's a good thing, I think, for everybody to do, but I found it interesting. 2 things struck me. One, the Public Works Director's discussion of the 4 NCIP budget options. It was stated that the city has no other means to fund infrastructure repairs than NCIP funding. I was struck by the seriousness of that, especially if that is what is to be on an annual basis. NCIP has a significant reality to grapple with beyond the current cuts. 2, during the city council meeting, just following the joint session with NCIP, the mayor engaged in discussion. It was a really informative discussion. And he said that he preferred to ask for $8 million from NCIP to provide a cushion, funds that if other first choice budget solutions failed, because other council people did not agree. So we are where we are. But that being, there's no assurity that sales tax, additional fees from the aquarium, and all of these potential resources for money will come to bear. And these issues, in conjunction with the potential loss of the Middlebury Institute, paint a really challenging picture for the city's future year budgets. In that context, I suggest the NCIP ask for a more comprehensive budget for the NCIP. A monthly budget should include a separate high-level document to include for each category below initial allocation, income, and expenses. And the three categories are status of funds for active projects, status of funds for dormant projects, and status of funds as they're allocated this year into the next budget year's allocation for use. It would be helpful to have this prior to any return of funds to the city. So before we vote for this, because it helps us get a clearer picture of what the target. It is, however, essential to me that the review of the third and fourth quarter of this fiscal year solidify a common view of NCIP for their budget. The current realities bearing unseen relief suggest that NCIP will well be served for rethinking its role and responsibility in the broader community context. It is or may become indefensible to hold large amounts of cash that cannot be efficiently and effectively spent while other government responsibilities go unfunded. The source of the NCIP ability to fund community projects is the health of the city as a whole. In other words, the better the city is functioning, the more money NCIP has. In this context, I again urge the NCIP to invest time in taking a strategic eye to the state of the NCIP framework, i.e. purpose, goals, outcomes, as well as performance targets. It's a 30-year-old project that currently
So I'm sorry, we do want to be fair to everyone.
issues.
Thank you.
One, I hope your holidays were good. I'd like to ask you to send a clear message to the city council at the conclusion of your 3 days working on this, that you would prefer having the fiscal year 27 funds, if they need any funding from NIP, that'd be from fiscal year 27 rather than from projects you're going to be considering. And I think it's a good idea to go through the projects that are on the books just to do your own due diligence and make sure there's nothing there that should be chopped or should be modified. But I would say that I think the city council is maybe looking for the easy button to figure their way out of an economic pickle. As Councilmember Smith said, one of the first things they have to do is start looking at their budget where they can cut costs. And there's still numerous places where I think costs could be cut for the reach for the NIP funds. The NIP is to serve the citizens of Monterey. It was meant to be, I think the term used in the era was for front porch issues. So, if you go back to the 1950s of being able to sit out on your front porch and watch the kids play in the street, it was what is it that the neighbors wanted to have in their neighborhoods because of the impacts of the tourism industry? And that's why it was attached to TOT. So we can't lose sight of that. It's in the charter, and it was put in the charter, I think, for a very deliberate reason. It's not supposed to be easily toyed with. I think it is a dangerous precedent to start bending the knee to what many of you would say are the ordinary costs of the city. They ought to figure out other ways to fund those or to cut those costs so that it can fit within the budget. $6 million is really a small amount of the total city budget. Talking about $120 million general fund. $6 million is 1/20 of that. So it's a very small amount. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and close general public comment and move on to approval of minutes. So these would be minutes for meetings on October 22nd, 2025 and November 5th, 2025. Are there any motions of approval or motions to amend the minutes for meetings held on these two dates? Thank you, guys.
Just get some.
Is that general comment for anything or you didn't say any preference or?
No, not yet.
I'd move that we approve the October 22nd minutes. One at a time.
Second.
Both or one.
Oh, well, we can do both at one time. Only amendment, we'll do both at one time. Is the second approve that?
And the second, yeah, I second that as well. A roll call vote.
Albedo Oates. Committee member Purdy, are you there? You should be able to speak now, committee member Purdy, if you're still there. Okay, we'll move on with roll call then. Alta Mesa,
Aye.
thank you. Casanova O'Connell,
Hi.
Pierre Platts,
I'll vote abstain on the October 22nd. I was not at that, but I will vote yay on the November 5th.
thank you. Del Monte Beach,
Aye.
Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande,
Aye.
thank you. Downtown,
Aye.
thank you. Fisherman's Flats,
Aye.
Glenwood,
Aye.
Monterey Vista,
Yes.
New Monterey,
Yes.
Oak Grove,
Aye.
thank you. Old Town,
Aye.
Skyline,
Yes, please.
and Villa Del Monte.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Right, so we'll move on to the next section of the meeting's agenda, informational reports and staff comments. I will turn it over to city staff if there are any presentations or informational reports.
I do not have any presentation or information report.
That's great. So we'll move on to the next part of the agenda, NCIP informational reports. I do not have any informational reports at this time. And so that brings us to our first public appearance item, receive a presentation and review appropriated prior year neighborhood community improvement program projects not yet started or inactive. And I'll go ahead and hand it off to city staff.
All right, thank you very much, Chair. Give me 1 second to share my screen. Okay, I think we're ready. So this evening, we're gonna have a brief meeting, presentation on what was originally 40 and now reduced down to 38 projects. And before I get into that, I just want to go over a few relevant stats for the NCIP program. So you've all seen these numbers before, but we've recently updated the 2025 numbers with the end of the calendar year. So over the last 23, 24, and 25, the NCIP program has added 105 projects, and we've completed 43 projects. So leaves us with 62 from that math. And then we had a few that were on the books back in 2023. So we currently roughly have roughly 80 projects. And we're on pace to add 14 based on voting and funding for 2026. So just briefly, the purpose for this item is to perform the task given to the NCIP committee by City Council in that special joint council meeting, NCIP meeting on October 13th. The City Council directed the NCIP committee to review their program and return to the City Council with a recommendation for $3 to $4 million worth of projects at the lowest priority to the committee. And further, council directed the committee to use a prioritization exercise similar to what the council used on September 2nd of 2025. So that's what that's kind of what we're here to do. I think just for everyone's perspective, for mine, this is unique, something we haven't done before. For staff, I think we're in listening mode, taking in the questions. We have two more sessions next week and the week after, with voting scheduled for January 28th. So with that, kind of jump into the actual projects. So in the agenda packet, there are two attachments for this item. And for everything we're talking about today, I'm going to do my best to follow the numbers that are associated with each project. So it's sequential from 1 to 40 in both the table and in the cards. For if you're looking at the cards, the number is in the lower right corner. Project card number 1 through 40. So the projects that were identified as inactive, and this goes back to the original presentation in October 2025. So we haven't changed the numbers, we haven't changed the projects, just for consistency and make it easy for everyone to follow, hopefully. So project 6, the public restroom study, is inactive. Project 7, swings installation has since been closed out. And those funds return to the NCIP project fund, 216 count fund. Casa Verde Way, Highway 1 underpass, hardscape and murals is inactive. Ryan Ranch Park, 8-court pickleball, and North Fremont bike and pedestrian path matching funds. Then we have 35 projects that were identified as not started. The number 1, Del Monte Beach Boardwalk repair, which is now in progress and approaching completion. Upper Windermere log drop repair, number 3, lighted crosswalk at Webster El Camino. That's set to go into an RFP package, go out to public bid next month. The Visadero 700 block drainage swell, Forest Drive, Holman Highway Bridge restoration, Ferranti Park playground improvement, Monterey Bay Park shower station, and Casanova Avenue 500 block street light. The next grouping, project number 13, Don Davy Creek Path construction, Old Town neighborhood signs, Windermere Lower Canyon drainage, another couple Del Monte Beach projects, Beach Boardwalk extension, Tide Avenue Boardwalk replacement, Lower Presidio Slope Monument restoration, Shoreline Park Fish Hopper restoration. Number 20 is the funding for underground utilities program. Number 21, Laguna Grande Park Elder Focus exercise equipment. Number 22 is Ramona Avenue sidewalk infill. Number 23 is the 801 Casanova Avenue sidewalk infill. Number 24, native plant dune ecosystem restoration out at Del Monte Beach. This project has since been started by the Parks and Rec Department. Number 26, 57 Melway Circle sidewalk infill. Number 27 is Cannery Row Workers Housing restoration. And we started looking at some contracting on this one for things like termite treatment and lead-based paint and asbestos sampling. Number 28, San Bernabé Road widening sidewalk installation. 29 David Avenue, Terry Street crosswalk and island installation. The next group of projects starts with number 30, Villa Del Monte traffic calming phase 2. Number 31 is install bike rack in Del Monte Beach parking lot. Number 32 is install beach boardwalk lighting. Number 33 is 600 Lobo Street drain line improvements. Number 34 is Villa Del Monte traffic calming phase 1. 35 is Lower Presidio walkway phase 2. 36 is install pickleball courts at Monterey Tennis Center. Number 37 is the funding set aside for an opportunity property purchase fund. Number 38, Recreation Trail Bike Repair Station has since been installed at the end of December. Number 39 is the NCIP contingency account, which has since been closed. And number 40, the NCIP ending balance fund account, which has also since been closed. I can talk in more detail about any of these projects if you'd like, but I will stop for committee questions.
Is there a significance to the color coding?
So on that table, that was sent out to only the committee, so the public doesn't have a copy of that. The color was for my use on how I read and look at the different projects. So, in short, the color coding, I think it is, the brown or orange and the green indicate, a specific contractor that is, designing the projects. The yellow are projects that are, in what I call closeout phase. And then the other coloring, depends on other, so like, for example, ALPR cameras, that's specific for police department. And then, that's really it.
Got it. Thanks.
Reggie, I know the North Fremont Gap project is on the inactive list, but I did have a question about that. If it is, are we going to be voting on inactive projects?
Well, yes, yeah, the full slate. So all what's now closer to 35 than 40 projects are up for vote. Yes.
Okay. And on the tail of that, if the North Fremont Gap project, because it's a matching fund and we don't have a grant to match, I would imagine it would be voted to be frozen. But if it is on the frozen list, and I know that staff is currently looking for other grant opportunities, the grant is obtained, would the city be able to fund the entire project or would they still need the matching funds?
The question is that if the NCIP account is frozen and the city continues to apply for grant applications, we're successful, we'll be able to secure matching funds? Is that the?
Would it then be taken off the frozen list and become an active
I
project?
think that's one option. I don't think staff can make any commitments at this point. I mean, that would obviously. Ultimately, in my experience, I found it is easier to find matching funds once you've secured a grant. If you're coming to the table with 80% of a project cost, historically, I found that cities have been able to find the matching funds. But with that said, this would deprogram those funds. So we'd be scrambling to find those funds in the future if we were successful.
Okay, so it's not a matter of it becoming or defunded, and then say in July you get a grant, then we could.
Those funds wouldn't be reserved for a matching.
Okay, so once it's defunded, even if you get a grant.
Even if we get a grant, once it's defunded. But I would say I'm optimistic that if a grant that the city would be able to find matching funds from additional accounts.
Okay, thank you.
Shelley, what number was that you're referring to?
The North Gap project is number 25 NCP 2513.
Thank you. So, do you want to go?
Yeah, so Reggie, when you went through number 7 and that one was closed, you said those funds that were in there went back to the NCIP account. Is that correct?
Right, yes.
So that's money right there that will be part of, I mean, by default, what we get recommended probably to council to go back to the.
In theory, we can get into more detail about that. So there is money in the NCIP fund. Yes.
On that, how much was that?
I think number 7, when it was closed out. Or give me 1 second.
Okay.
Was,
At the 701,000?
was $58,400.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you may have answered this before, but if you would
remind me the definition of inactive as opposed to something that hasn't been started?
Oh, and maybe it's splitting hairs, but inactive, so take, for example, the matching funds, for, the North Fremont grant, that project, I mean, it hasn't started, but, right, we couldn't start it now if we wanted to. That instance, and then there were other projects that just had some, impediment, I would call it. So like the Larkin Park swings, you didn't have sufficient room to install the swings in the park and those types of issues. So they're just ones that had issues. The ones that hadn't started for one reason or mostly due to lack of staffing. And we just haven't had it. That's why we have roughly 80 projects on the books. We don't have the staff to run 80 projects at once.
Okay, so there's nothing blocking those
Right.
other than staffing and the issues that we had. Okay, thank you.
You were asked to look at projects.
Yeah. Kurt, committee member Tipton has his hand raised.
Okay, you can go, Jared.
So the question I have, Reggie, on the inactive projects, do you have this, how much money are we talking about?
So that is in the staff report. If you go
I must have missed
to,
it.
if you go to the end of attachment 1.
Okay,
So that totals roughly to $1 million.
okay. And that, the Miroscape, that's because of Caltrans and those types of things, correct? That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, so $1 million right there and just the inactive. Thank you.
So I have a question. Our directive is to rank by hierarchy the not started projects. So wouldn't that be, according to your table, just 33 projects that we're supposed to be voting on?
Well, I mean, the committee can vote on any of the projects. But I mean, these were presented, I grouped together the not started and inactive projects. It's completely up to the committee how you like to vote and rank the projects. So if you want to, I mean, if it's the implication to not vote on inactive projects, now, I mean, that's your decision.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. I think I would understand the parsing of inactive and not started. Okay, I don't have any other questions. Other.
Along those lines, I'll ask another question. If we don't have a contingency project and we don't have an ending balance project and they're in the fund unappropriated balance, then we don't have that one as a project to recommend a plus or minus one.
That would be correct. Those projects no longer exist.
And therefore that ending balance is not one of the things that we're voting on ultimately for removal. It can carry forward to next year's funding, depending on whether or not the council takes the $3.5 million that we originally said for next year's funding, next year's fund.
Are there any other committee questions before we open it up to public comment?
If I may, Chair, I just want to clarify as well in regards to the review of an inactive or a non-started project. Those are just different statuses. What it is, honestly, is that we're just trying to present all existing projects within the NCIP program that are not currently in progress, whether they are inactive or non-started. A definition is not as relevant, but simply just towards the City Council's directive of reviewing currently existing projects. Rather than the NCIP committee reviewing active ongoing projects, we're presenting you these other inactive non-started projects. So that's, hopefully that can provide some clarification to this.
I'm sorry, just one more clarification question. So for example, project 1, the boardwalk repair, it says in progress. So is that included in the in progress category or is that included in the not started?
So this, we're all victims of, I guess, life, right? So these projects had not been started in October. And then, for example, the Del Monte Beach Boardwalk project, when the government shutdown happened, the city made a conscious decision, I'd say, to identify projects that city staff that would generally be at the Presidio working. We identified projects that they could do in the city that weren't federally funded. And there are a few of those, and this is one of them, where city staff took on and were able to, I mean, this project is nearly complete. So there's not, I mean, you could vote on defunding what is remaining in the account, but there's not much to speak of.
Okay, I'll circle back to that, I guess, during comments. And then we can move on to public comments. All right, so those that are here that want to make a comment, if you can raise your hand, assuming it's everybody. That's everyone, okay. 11 people? And anyone online?
We have 2 attendees online and there's no public comment online.
I mean, we could do 3 minutes. Yeah, okay. All right, well, I guess we'll have you guys, if you want to line up to wait your turn to come up, and we'll give you guys 3 minutes to make your comment.
There's commissioners. They usually are.
Make sure the microphone is on, please.
Okay, keep it close here. Ready? My name is Ray Myers. I'm the chairperson for Monterey Bay or Monterey Undergrounding. Our group is composed of active members from multiple districts within Monterey, has been meeting since 2000. We discuss strategies for funding and educating the public on merits of underground utilities. In 2024, NCIP approved $2.25 million in seed money to start a new citywide underground program, which the city council then directed towards the already active underground program conversion on Fremont Street. This project was started way back in 2017. It was to utilize the approved $4.7 million in state underground Rural 20 tariff credits. However, PG&E, when they were established all the final bids and the agreements and designs required, the city of Monterey would need to come up with additional funding to make up the difference between the credits and the new project cost. So the city if they're unable to meet this funding amount, they'll be subject to forfeiting this $4.7 million of credits or drastically scaling back the project and future delays. City Council person Gene Rush and I both have been dialoguing with PG&E representatives over the last year, move the project up in the waiting line. And recently, last month, we're successful persuading PG&E to commence the design phase starting this year, as opposed to 2035 as planned. This means that the NCIP $2.25 million already approved for undergrounding must be available by the time PG&E is ready for construction phase, which is estimated 2028, 2029, and should not be considered for key funding. If the city of Monterey is unable to cover this additional cost, at that point, PG&E will redistribute the $4.7 million to other cities with active projects, and Monterey will have squandered this opportunity to make the city safer and more resilient to power loss. I urge this committee to consider the consequences and the risks of losing $4.7 million in credits just to satisfy 1 year of continual structural budget deficit. NCIP funding for this project is reappropriated, and no NCIP undergrounding projects are approved in the future. It will be extremely difficult for the city to come up with a full amount in 1 year, and the hard work of 8 years to start undergrounding our city will be back to zero with no funding and nothing to show. A decision to undercut
this endeavor is a disservice to Monterey, the people who deserve to see these poles go safely underground, to make their neighborhoods safer, be more resilient, and to return the city to its natural beauty. Thank you.
Thank you.
I start talking, okay. Hi, everybody. So I'm here for the pickleball and tennis courts conversion. I'm Richie Snelling. I own and manage the Monterey Tennis Center, also the Monterey Bay Racket Club. I've been managing that Monterey Tennis Center for 5 years now. I make my bills every month to the city, so I actually pay the city every single month renting that facility. And the more revenue we actually generate, so during the summertime when I do kids, camps, with getting kids out there playing tennis, and we do put out temporary nets for pickleball as well. That rent actually goes up. Currently, right now, we were offered by Monte Vista, the King, and a couple other schools. So we'll start coaching pickleball to youth. There's about 40 to 50 kids at every single one of these schools looking for staff to help get out there. So all my coaches will get out there. Last weekend, I did a pickleball tournament, 220 participants. 60 of those participants were locals. The rest of them came from out of zip code 9394, which means that they stayed at hotels because it was a 3-day tournament, bringing revenue to the city as well. We get asked all the time for pickleball at the tennis center. It's a more central downtown. There's other hotels where they're asking, hey, can we do an event here? Can we do something, whether it's the Marriott, any of those. And so I thought putting this project downtown instead of Ryan Ranch, or my proposal originally, was like, hey, we're, saving the city money by making it, instead of, multi-million-dollar project, into a $55,000 project. And I thought that was, pretty good. And so the idea that I put so much work into this is my fourth time up here speaking. And it's just it's really disappointing that this is what's going on. I pay my rent. It all goes to the city, it all goes back to the community, for the elderly, along with the youth. So, like I said, so thanks, guys.
Bob Evans, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm a little confused by this whole process. Probably appreciated the choir, but what's happening for the next few Wednesdays is uncharted territory as far as I'm concerned, in my experience with NIP over 40 plus years. And so it may be that you'll want to try to prescribe or suggest to the council some parameters on how this is to take part. Defunding projects that you or your previous colleagues have spent a lot of time and energy reviewing and approving will poses, I think, instantly some problems. So what happens to these zombie projects? Are they going to go dead and gone? Or is it possible that they're going to be revised at some time? And if so, where will the money come from? So I think those are things that you might want to consider. In prioritizing these things, I think there are some factors that I certainly would consider. One, the matching grant, I think, is very important for the undergrounding. And things that improve safety for walkers and bikers, like sidewalk infill and the crosswalk in New Monterey. There are bus stops on both sides of David Avenue at Terry Street. And as Tom has pointed out, there's only about 4 seconds for people to recognize that there's somebody in the middle of the road. So we need striping and a traffic calming island in the middle so people can escape and that sort of thing. Also, on the New Monterey side of this whole thing. We have the worker shacks on Cannery Row. Those are historic, and I don't think we can afford to lose them. There just aren't that many left in the world, and they represent a whole phase of city history. And it's on my other one here. Oh, and the lower Presidio walkway is a fairly simple project and will improve, again, walkers' safety. So consider safety as a priority. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Mannix. I'm here to advocate for another safety issue. My project is the lighted crosswalk on Webster Street and Camino El Estero. I've lived on Webster Street for about 15 years now, and I cross that intersection over to the park almost every single day and sometimes multiple times a day. I'm a dog walker. I also take care of children in my family, so we cross the street. This is an incredibly dangerous intersection. I think, as we all can recognize, since COVID, people drive like they are the only people on the road. And it's dangerous to stand out there and try and cross the street. If you are a senior citizen, if you are just me, I'm 53 years old, I'm healthy, and I still stand there and question whether or not I should try and cross, because cars are going so fast from the car wash to the Pearl Street Bridge. Unfortunately, we can't blame this on tourists. This is locals that drive like this. They want to get home from work. That's cool, we all do, but some of us don't need to be cursed at and honked at just because we tried to cross the street when it was appropriate because you decided to go 45. So I really would like to ask you all to consider, and I know that you have a tough choice in front of you that you're being asked to make, to eliminate projects that are impactful on your neighbors. This was a big deal to me to put this project in. I have a tenant who lives on my property. She's a retired teacher. She tried to cross that street walking her dog and became alarmed when a car came out of nowhere going so fast that she fell in the crosswalk. She had to have emergency dental work done. She had to go to the emergency room. Her dog was injured because she fell on her dog. This is just a sunny afternoon. So imagine it being nighttime or raining. So please take into consideration the safety of your neighbors when you talk about what projects are okay to eliminate. And know that this has been approved for years, and I'm still waiting, and I'm still a little bit scared to cross the street in my own neighborhood. Thank you.
Which number project was that you were referring to? Do we know?
It was the lighted crosswalk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Susie Grimes, and I just wanted to speak to number 20 in NCP, the Underground Utilities Program. I've also been attending meeting with some of the Underground Committee for many years. We worked really hard on doing research and trying to find ways that we can get some funding for undergrounding. And I just don't want us to lose the 4.7 million that is available with PG&E credits. This amount that we have that's been approved already is really would be helpful. And if we lose it, I don't know if we'll ever get it back again. And that might totally take away from PG&E being able to ever get started with the underground project in the city. And it is about safety and resiliency, as we all experienced at Christmas time when everybody's power, a lot of people lost power. I mean, there were, we can get our power lines underground. And if we can start with these major areas like Fremont Street, the sooner our city will be safer. And it's a vision for the future. We have to think about the future. And this is money that we don't have to have staff go do a project right now or this year, but it's money available when PG&E is ready to dig on Fremont Street. So I really hope you'll consider keeping it because it's taken us a long time to get where we are now, and I'd hate to have to start from square one. Thank you.
Neighborhood Association, we met to go over some of these projects, and one of the first questions was, what is the process we're following? And I'm still confused about what the process is here. Is this, tonight's meeting is just to review the projects, and then next week's gonna be a ditto of this week, and then the third meeting is gonna be, you're gonna vote on it? Because it doesn't seem like you need 2 meetings just to look at 34 projects, but whatever. So I think that's wasn't really enunciated that way, that these first 2 meetings are review, the following meeting is going to be voting. It'd be nice for the public to know what the roadmap's going to be. I was a little confused by the comment. It's, if I heard it right, that the contingency fund is not in play, because I don't understand the reasoning for that. My understanding is that you're just sweeping the contingency and the ending year balance fund in a one fund, in a one account. So it's still money on account. Why wouldn't that still be considered? And maybe you can answer that question. I know you can't respond to me directly. Committee member Schmidt asked a question about if there was a grant that became available, could the money be recaptured back? And I heard Mr. Easterling's response, and I think, well, the response implies that there's like money under a couch somewhere that can be brought back in again. Because if the city council is really doing zero-based budgeting, it shouldn't be digging into the NIP unless it really truly is an emergency. That money is already earmarked for salaries and things that have to be spent on. And if you take that philosophy, then that money is not available because it's needed for the ordinary and necessary services of the city. That's the words in the charter. So it would surprise me if all of a sudden some money could be found to replace that money that was taken. It used to be we could use work orders and an on-call contractor to get some of this work done. I went out to one of the projects in my neighborhood, a simple drainage project that takes nothing more than a spray can and a pen to write a work order to the contractor to get it done. So I'm kind of wondering what happened to that method of getting work done. The Terry lighted crosswalk, we have 4 streets that go through in a Pacific Grove from New Monterey, Terry being one of them. So as Bob said, I think that's a very important project. Undergrounding, that's been talked about a lot. I'm a proponent of it. We have a bird in the bush, at least, maybe not in the hand, when it comes to PG&E. So I'd hate to see that money taken away and not have it available for acting as our side of the deal. Thank you.
I'm Nancy Soule. I live in Old Town, but I want to speak on behalf of the city and, as others have, for how important this undergrounding project is. It's rare that we would get that opportunity that PG&E would actually move our project up. Consideration of design next year, or I believe it was this year, that they would actually be doing the design. If we go and defund it and then just tell PG&E, sorry, that we're not interested in our part to put our matching, the remainder of funds into it, what message does that give for our importance to get something so important done? I was at several meetings over this last week since Christmas or other events, and the big topic was, did you lose power? Did you have power on? It was huge. People kept saying, why aren't we at least getting started? Sure, it's a huge deal to underground a city. But if we start with this one project, which we already have 4.7 million to go towards, just think this can become our kind of prototype for what could possibly be our plans to make a citywide plan that eventually gets started. What's our excuse? Are we like Altamira and saying, like the city up in the Sierras that lost their whole city. And it was due to power lines in good measure. We need to at least show that we are making an effort to try to solve this problem. And it is a problem, not just for the loss of power when lines cross and trees go down in our storms. That is a big business problem for people who work. And they lost power, they lost some of the ability to complete their work. But it's also the safety. And to just ignore it year after year and not get at least a handle on it when we have these funds that are going to be forfeited. We are so lucky to be one of the very few cities that had a project already ready to be approved by PG&E. Most cities, they don't have the chance to use their Rule 28 funds. We do. We have that leg up, and then they moved us forward. They've moved us now, and we need to complete and utilize that impetus that they have and not squander it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michaela. That's Michael with an A on the last name, Fossum, F-O-S-S-U-M. I'm the submitter of the Villa Del Monte Casa Verde Highway 1 underpass project. I think it was from your first list. It's NCP number 2326. To follow history on this, to remind you that I first submitted this 9 years ago in 2017. It was approved for both hardscaping and art mural features for approximately $300,000. Then COVID happened. The city, under an emergency declaration, withdrew those funds. And so I resubmitted it in 2022 on the hardscape for phase 1. The funds were approved by City Council in September 2022. I do recognize that there is the big hiccup of Caltrans. I believe some work was started with Caltrans, but I have been told by more than one person that our prior city manager actually directed our staff not to work on this project. I don't know, he just had to be in his bonnet about this project. And I think you can even confirm that with Mr. Paulding. So that's history. Then in 2024, I resubmitted for phase 2 of the project, which was the art murals. The committee approved it, and I'm a little confused by the card on your agenda staff report because I don't think that it was ever presented to City Council for funding phase 2. So I believe what's before you tonight is phase 1 of hardscaping. I also want to comment that since you approved the project and it was funded by City Council, there have been complaints from residents in Villa Del Monte neighborhood about the lack of pedestrian safety in the underpass. It's not only very dark with very poor light, but you have 4 ingress and egress to Highway 1, that underpass. It is heavily traveled by foot, bicycle, and car. The cars tend to go slow there, but they come off the freeway pretty fast. So I just wanted to mention that. And I also, in support of other projects mentioned tonight for crosswalk safety, I want to support that. 20 years ago, I was hit by a car as a pedestrian. I nearly lost my life. And it was a miracle I wasn't paralyzed from the neck down, 1 millimeter away from being paralyzed for the rest of my life. Took me 5 years to recover. Pedestrian safety is really important. And I am here to advocate for the other projects for pedestrian safety. Thank you.
It's Debbie Stegman, and I live in this neighborhood area, and I'm here to talk about for supporting the underground project.
Can you speak up, please?
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
So first of all, thank you. And what I would like to do is kind of address What exactly is an infrastructure project? As a reminder, they are construction, renovation, maintenance, and essentially physical systems that support a community or an economy, such as road, bridges, and utilities. This undergrounding project is definitely falls under infrastructure. I think the community in the past has supported infrastructure and budgeting as being two of the top priorities that we have here in the city. So I just wanted to point that out. Just to go briefly through the history that Ray and others have already done. In 2019, this project was approved. It got derailed by COVID. And, now it's not showing as active, and I think it should be an active project. Much of the funding is in place, more than half of what the proposed cost is. The real story, I think, right now today for me is seeing my neighbors in December who were going without power. We're pretty lucky in our neighborhood. A lot of us can afford either a battery, a generator, or a small rechargeable generator, but many of my neighbors can't. We had neighbors who could not afford a solution. One of my neighbors is a teacher. She spent 4 nights working on student papers on a flashlight. We have a new pediatrician in town who happens to live in my neighborhood. On the 3rd day that the power was out, she told her husband, I can't do this anymore. I have to find a shower and I have to find a warm place because I cannot go to work like this. There is also a recovering cancer patient in our neighborhood, had to leave Monterey for those 5 days because they didn't know when the power was going to come back on, and the stress was too much for them at this time in their recovery. So please consider your neighbors when you're considering this project. It is very important. Thank you.
Yes, first I'd like to, is it on? Okay, agree with a previous speaker who kind of confusion about the process for this. I suffered from that myself and trying to figure out how the group is going to make a decision about what should be frozen and not. We have no kind of narrative for the public to talk to our communities. All we can say is, well, they're going to vote on whether or not they want to freeze the project or not. I think that's really incumbent upon this committee to be more responsible to what the narrative is. I repeat that a financial document would help us greatly with a number of the statements that have been said here. We need to see what is available as liquid money that can be put to the deficit and given to the city without doing away with the project. I didn't hear the city say they needed us to get rid of projects. I heard the city say we need money. And I think we need to attend to that to show due diligence to the projects that have already been approved and unapproved and approved again. So I'm also going to talk about San Burnaby. San Burnaby is listed as an unstarted project. San Burnaby has been started. It was started with the planning process many years ago, again, a 2017 project. The planning process, the design was done. Thank you, Reggie, for your answering the email to Stella that neither of us know. It's a wonderful plan. It's actually quite comprehensive and probably costs a little bit because it's definitely a comprehensive plan. So my review of the projects that are viewed as in process have a design and an implementation component to them. This project uniquely has had those two things separated, and the design that exists costs us some money. So we should be thinking about efficiency on that as well. But I do think one of the main overarching things that we need to take into account is do little harm. It's kind of a medical thing, but do no harm is more in that range, but really do as little harm as we possibly have to do. And I don't know that people are looking at that with the full range of funding and opportunities available.
And I believe we had two online.
No, there, excuse me, there were two people online, but they raised their hands.
Okay. Great. So we'll go ahead and close public comment and open it up for committee discussion. Go ahead, Shelley.
So at the first meeting, when we discussed the defunding freezing list, you heard from most all of my submitters, either attended in person, remotely, or wrote in a letter. Their feelings are still the same. The sidewalk infill projects in Casanova Oak Knolls are very much public safety. We have a wide range of ages in our neighborhood, and there's strollers and wheelchairs and walkers, and our traffic is pretty, there's a lot of speeding and there is a lot of traffic in our neighborhood. And so for somebody in a walker or wheelchair to have to go into the street to maneuver around these areas that don't have any sidewalks is dangerous. And so they're very much still wanting their projects to go forward. I think Reggie said if we bundled them, they could be, we could save some money. And if you add up all the sidewalk and fill projects, they're relatively low cost. So I want to just advocate for them since I don't think they could attend today.
I want to take a minute to talk about some specific projects and then kind of bring it back to the overall. So Del Monte Beach actually has the majority, I mean, more projects than any other neighborhood on the get it out of here list. A number of these projects were spoken about in city council meetings on air numerous times. And frankly, I think they're just not understood. We have 3 of them colored orange on the one that was handed out, or 3 of these that are on the list. They're all in the same contract because they're all the same process. And that's one where I have documented broken arms, documented broken teeth. It's a mess. It needs to be cleaned up. So there's a very strong support for these, and there's a very strong need. The same with the native species and fixing. We've got massive erosion problems, and this is putting your finger in the dike now before the dike breaks. And the bike rack, it's done. So we're going to be able to give money back on that one right now. That's great. We don't even necessarily have to do any more on it. And then we'll come back in on the last one with some comments. So practically speaking, all of our projects were considered in great detail, and the neighborhood is feeling that they're very important. And that's what I want to kind of point out is that NCIP is not the only source of funds for the city of Monterey, but it is the only source of funds that the neighborhoods have for mitigating these issues. The NCIP committee did hear the city, and this year they approved only 14 projects, and millions of dollars of those projects are straight up CIP projects. It's the kind of thing that a city would have on its CIP list. So we are listening and we are showing our support. I think the comment about inactive should be thrown out. What we know is the ones with the inactive tag are ones that we voted for, and on some, like the underpass, multiple times voted for when we were told there was pressures outside of the committee against them. We voted for them anyway because we as NCIP said they're important to us. So don't rely on that as a way not to think about it. Instead, there's a lot of good work that has been done here, and that work should continue. It's not efficient to stop work in the middle of it. You're going to save more money by getting these done and not starting something else than you would if you stop these and then went off and started a new one. It's also substantially less confusing to finish these, get these done, and not put these aside and go start something else. So I would encourage everybody here to set aside the false assumption that these aren't started and they're not important, because we have already looked at them. And I think maybe the city council doesn't quite know that. We've spent a lot of time looking through the list. We've already gone through and pared out the ones that weren't important, or the ones that could be set aside, or the ones that are, and this is a clean list. And right now, my neighborhood is in support of this list. I'm putting the note up on the tree to advertise to everybody to fill out the surveys. Which ones do you want the city to take money from? And that's a great question to ask your neighbors, but so far the indication is these are important.
Can I clarify, Jamie? So you said the bike rack, so that's project 31, that's done?
Yep. I was just sticking one out that it was in inventory, so it's not started, but it actually didn't need to be a big project.
Other comments? She'll have Hans go and then you can go.
And going through these projects, there's one thing that I'd really like to see is a number of these projects are not really not started, but they're like a phase 2 of a project. We used to have phases for a lot of projects because we couldn't fund things in one. So we'd fund the design first and the build second. And I think it would be really nice to have a column in the spreadsheets, which of the projects are already, had a phase 1 to them, because I think a lot of projects where there's been a lot of design work, they're already done. And this is just a phase 2 of it. I think it'd be really good for people to understand and to highlight those projects so we're not being wasteful in terms of, getting half a project done and then not doing the other half. So if possible, to add a column for, whether this is a continuation of a previous project or a brand new project, some indication of that. The other is, number of us have been going through the spreadsheet trying to figure out how the projects have been rated. And it'd be great to have a column with, like, this was number 1 project, or this was number 37, in the voting list for each of the years. It doesn't matter whether it's which year it is, but to get an idea of how high they were when we voted on rating. I mean, we can each go through that, but if we could add that to the column, I think it'd be make it easier for us to prioritize as well. Because I think there is some importance in how we voted. Was it a 1, 2, or 3 project, or was it a 37 project on the list? That would be really helpful. So, my comments and trying to get a little bit of information for each. Thank you.
Actually, in the staff report, we have the number of votes they got. Is that sufficient, or did you want to see where in the rank of voting for that particular year?
Well, we have different, there were different out of how many, votes. It'd be, for me, it would be easier if it were, number 1, number 3, or whatever. I mean, the votes is.
That is included in attachment 2 of the agenda item. So it's the colored code of cards. Not the table itself, but it shows the number of votes, which is the first number, and then in the parentheses next to that has the vote ranking showing the number of that.
Okay, but can those be put in the table as well? Or is that too? I mean, that's what I'm trying to do.
I mean, I don't want to be argumentative, but all that information already exists in the table.
Yeah.
It's already there. I mean, we could put it in a second time or a third time, but in the table, you have the number of votes. You also have the project number. Project number directly reflects where the project landed. So 2 would be the number 2 project that year, 03, 04, 05, 10, 11, 12. That's how they fell. That's how they're numbered. So the number scheme tells you exactly how the project fell.
Oh, this is my.
And it tells you the number of votes, tells you exact. And from year to year, we haven't changed the number of NCIP members, so there's 15 members, each person gets 10 votes. So it goes from maximum would be 150. So if you see a project with 150 votes, it got 10 from everyone. If it has 10 votes, it got 1 or less, right? So a project.
So if you're saying project 2404 is the 04th, is the number 4 voting?
In year 24.
Okay, I didn't understand that. Okay.
That is the project nomenclature.
That's
So 2513 is the 13th rated project in 2025.
okay. No, thank you for that.
Like talk, Dennis?
Dennis has.
I still have 2 more things to do. We walked the projects in Skyline and the Windermere water runoff area. And we found several of the steps going down from the upper side where the bollards had failed. And they definitely need repair. In one case, the erosion was within 4 feet of somebody's property line. In another case, it was about 6 feet. So there is some potential damage that we need to care for in that project. And Reggie mentioned that the city will do a review post the storms, but I think we need to attend to having some money there. The other comment I want to make is there's been a few people who have mentioned confusion of why we're having 2 nights of public testimony before we take our vote on the 28th. Not everybody can make it to one meeting, so we wanted to make sure we had 2 nights. We were getting the public's comments because we represent the people. We want to get their feedback. So that's why there's 2 meetings reviewing only 30-odd projects. But we needed to allow the public to be able to make their comments on it. We're only creating a prioritization list. City council will be the ones acting based on their budgetary needs on whether or not they need to go into all of those projects. We're not actually making the cuts. We're making a recommendation, which is very similar to what we do when we approve projects or when we recommend approval for projects and city council approves them, which we had done in all of these projects. We've approved them, city councils approved them, but now they have a budgetary need. So they're looking for feedback from us on what is the priority of those things. We've already offered 3.5 million of the 27 monies. And if they need to go deeper, then they'll be looking at those prioritizations. But again, those are all projects that we all have approved, both us and council. But in this they need to have some prioritization so they know which ones will hurt the least. So that's the process.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dennis. And I think I like the comment that was made, do no harm. I think it is counterproductive to us, considering that we were making prior to when council was giving us this directive to look for, is it 3 to 4 million out of these not yet started and active projects. But I agree with everything. To reiterate what's been said, we've only done 14 for this year. A lot of it was CIP, and I think that was due diligence and recognizing the structural deficit and doing our part to help the city. So I kind of agree that my philosophy on here, and I think it was said many times, we want to have these meetings for the public input. So making sure we're not making a recommendation to council that's counter to what the public wants. So my sort of look at this is that these should all be protected unless we find some low-hanging fruit that we go, the proponent's gone, this is not really important anymore to our neighborhood, and we find some simple things to go, yeah, we recommend to council, this is money we can return to help with the budget. But I agree that we've made a contract with our neighborhoods and the people approving these, and I would want to protect these, especially the things that have been said tonight about undergrounding and that money, if it goes away, we're going back to square zero, and the safety and pedestrian issues. So That's just my own thoughts and philosophy on it, but I appreciate the comments to help clarify, because there is a lot of confusion tonight. What are we really doing?
We also have two committee members online that have raised their hand if you'd like to take it. Okay, Committee Member Johnson, you raised your hand first if you'd like to speak.
Yes, thank you, Parker. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Yes, I'm a little confused I know some committee members have spoken in support of various projects in their neighborhood. And I understand the budget constraints that the city is under and how we all have to chip in. But like the other committee members and members of the public who are speaking tonight mentioned, the safety things are, that have already been approved and already been examined and looked at. Like, I can't see why we should vote to defund them. And I want to give an example. In my neighborhood, we don't have a lot of projects on the board in our neighborhood, but a very important one, the underpass, the Casa Verde underpass, is a huge safety issue. For example, just the other night, my son, who works at the bowling alley, was walking home and almost got hit by a car trying to merge onto Casa Verde. He's right in the middle of the crosswalk. It's dark, it's dangerous. We have tons of visitors using that during big events. And frankly, it's scary down there. I avoid it. Even during the day, it's scary. So just things like that. It kind of looks, ghetto. So, maybe the mosaic tile murals and things like that, the towers that proclaim our neighborhood, or announce our neighborhood, aren't top priority. But the phase one of the project, I believe, should be. And I'm not really sure, why, since we've already approved it, why there's a vote to defund it, or, we have the option. That's it.
Thank you. And now Committee Member Tipton, you can speak.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to first start with, you've heard from several of the projects in downtown, the crosswalk, the pickleball court. One of the projects is the shower station at Del Monte Beach. And I heard from that submitter, he's actually very disillusioned because that got defunded during the pandemic. We brought it back, but he still doesn't understand why it hasn't gotten started, because it's fairly simple. And it's not much, but he was, like I said, a little disillusioned on that, so he didn't speak. And my philosophy is, or what I understand, City Council has given us a very straightforward directive that we must come up with our recommendation for freezing projects that total $3 to $4 million. What I like, and what we've talked about several times, is as a committee, we should also tell council that we prefer taking the $3.5 million from next year's budget rather than trying to freeze these projects. And based on that, I want to give the city council projects that it would be difficult for them to go and vote and defund, so that they would maybe accept our recommendation of the $3.5 million and put projects that would be very difficult for them to defund. That's my philosophy, and that's the way I'm looking at it.
So along those lines and things that have been said by committee members and the general public, could we put on the agenda for the last meeting a discussion of what we want our recommendations to be? So I'm envisioning like a position statement, and I can volunteer to write it, and we can kind of talk about what we want to include in it, but that can be part of what we present or submit to city council to consider when they are, consider the options that we think they should consider. And obviously they will make their own decisions, but I think that might be helpful and address some of the concerns that were brought up regarding this process. And also it will kind of go back to the couple of meetings that we had where there was that agenda item and we had talked about making sure that we follow the directive given to us by city council and not kind of suggest alternative things out of turn. So I think this kind of brings everything together. If we have that on the agenda and we can discuss that, and then I can summarize and rate that. And then the other statement question I have, and I know I'm being nitpicky and I apologize, Reggie. But again, like project 1, it says in progress. So why is it even on this list? So I kind of feel like there's some things on this list that we can probably cross off that we can automatically kind of remove from the voting because it doesn't seem to apply. So the example would be project 1. So the boardwalk repair, it says it's in progress. You did mention, and maybe there can be clarification regarding the lighted crosswalk, project 3. So you did say that there was a package for 2020 February.
Right, so, I mean, I apologize. There is, I mean, it's confusion because this is a confusing process. So, I mean, the reason, and this was my decision, and I thought that it's what reduce confusion, was to keep the list the same, right? So this list, we're looking at least the 3rd generation of this list, right? So there was the original list was created in October, it was updated in December, and it's been updated again, right, with each agenda report. So life has happened since October, right? So things have changed, projects have progressed, and so on and so on. So in the case, as we talked about with Del Monte Beach Boardwalk, circumstances beyond anyone in this room, any of our control happened. Project was worked on by people who had time to work. So that's why it's on here. That's why it's in progress, and the committee could vote. I mean, when it gets to city council and it's up to their decision, maybe there's $3 or less left in the fund, right, in that project, because people are working on it every day. The other one, I'm sorry, which
Project 3,
project
February.
So project 3, as of today, right now, there's $120,000 available. The project is slated to be bundled with other crosswalk projects in the downtown area to go on a request for proposal for contractors to bid on. If the committee makes a decision that they would recommend this project not go forward, we can remove it from the RFP. If the committee decides to continue to recommend it, we can keep it going.
Okay, and then project, let's see, project 12, the submitter has said that they're fine with it being frozen.
Right.
So again, I feel like that's something that we don't necessarily have to do since they're already okay with that.
I'm sorry, well, I would personally make a recommendation that the committee takes that information into account and votes and makes a recommendation. That would be I mean, because I think that projects like, for example, so number 12, the Casanova Avenue streetlight, and the Del Monte Beach, what do you call bike rack project, right? Those are specific examples where the project proponent is saying, I'm okay with this project being defunded, right? So I think that those types of projects should be identified and the committee should vote on them. Because there's only, as far as I know, I mean, based in history anyway, there's really only 2 ways to remove a project from the NCIP list, right? So we either remove projects when we complete them, or we remove projects with a recommendation from the committee that goes to city council, right? Those are the only 2 pathways.
I understand that. I guess where I'm coming from is, again, and it may be semantics, but we're supposed to vote on projects that are not yet started. So it seems kind of like it doesn't make sense to have a project on a list that we're supposed to vote on that you've already identified as being in progress. So like, So I don't know if that's something that we would put on an agenda to talk about, maybe like adjusting the list that it's more specifically the list that we're voting on.
Got it.
So I don't know, point of order, like how, or we could just, I guess, take it into advisement and then we can, not make any.
Yeah, that would be the recommendation. For completeness, we're giving you the full list. Any of these projects can be at different phases of work. As Reggie mentioned, we had the government shutdown and all of a sudden we had a labor workforce that became available and pushed on a lot of these projects. So we'll continue working on projects until the decision's made. But for completeness and just for your information, we're giving you the information of if stuff's in motion or if it really is kind of stagnating.
Okay.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
So that kind of goes in line with what I was saying before, and I'm looking at, well, you just mentioned that number 12 could be one. So again, if we're looking for low hanging fruit, that would be clear. We go, okay, this is one maybe we don't vote as a high priority to retain. But the one with the pickleball, number 9, pickleball study for out in Ryan Ranch, wasn't that sort of decided by the city that was a no-go? So, that might be another one that we would want to talk about to say, the pickleball representative that was here talking about they wanted to do it in town. And so what was the other one?
So that actually was a different project. So the Ryan Ranch one was the one that the city council said was a no-go.
Right.
This one is the Monterey Tennis Center or Racket Center. So it's different. It was resubmitted, I believe, right?
So there's two. So again, more confused.
Yeah.
There's two pickleball projects on this list.
And number 36 was the one that we spoke on tonight.
Yes. Oh,
right. So that one I think is one we would want to protect for reasons the public spoke on. But the one at Ryan Ranch could be one that we as a committee might want to talk about. I mean, there was a lot of public support when that was being proposed, but council's come back and says, this is really a non-starter. And other things too, where staff might go, like you said, there's certain impediments to some of these. And those are the ones we might want to look at and just go, is this realistic to keep this on the list? Or might this one be we would vote to recommend to council that might be defended and doing our due diligence? That's my point.
yeah. And I agree. It sounds like the recommendation is that we just take it into advisement, but I agree with you. Any other comments from committee members? Anyone online that wants to make another comment?
Committee member Johnson. You're muted. Sorry.
There we go. Back to the pickleball comment. As a group, we had our commission, we had extensive discussion. I remember I was sitting at one of those tables in there with you guys and about whether we should support the downtown pickleball addition to the current tennis center. I mean, I think we talked about that for 30 minutes. So there was a big discussion about it. And I think at that point, the group of us, didn't we vote on that and decide to continue with our support for the Ryan Ranch? I mean, I'm just remembering that this is my first time going through this process, but we had concerns that the pickleball for the Monterey, adding pickleball courts there, it was kind of going to be useful for the hotels and the tourists, but not for our community members so much. So there's a noise aspect that Ryan Ranch is able to address by not having homes right by there. There's the parking issues, so it's like we've already gone through it. So I'm not sure why we would go through it again.
That's the theme of the night. Yeah. Well said. Okay. Are there any other, Kurt, did you have any other comments or anyone else online? Okay. All right. So I think we can close committee comments or committee discussion at this time and move on to the next item, which is committee member comments. Are there any comments that committee members want to make?
He's moving right now, so I can talk while he's
He's
moving.
running.
Or is he coming back?
He's coming back.
Okay, he's coming back. I'll wait.
I can take notes, relay the message. It's all recorded too.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So also I remembered a discussion we had about prioritizing safety things. And I'm just, was that like a decision that we made among a group to do? And maybe like, for instance, I'd have a project that I nominate or I submitted in 2024. And, you know, fully admit that's not a high priority. It's a great project and be wonderful for the city and for our seniors and our neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. But it's not, the safety aspect of that is probably pretty low. And so I would imagine that that project could be on hold. And just like pickleball or other exercise-based, you know, additions to parks and things like that. But I thought we decided that that was going to be our priority. I believe we voted on that. Isn't that correct?
What's for this piece?
Yeah, we did have that discussion and we all agreed that we should prioritize safety projects.
So I'm not sure why we're kind of talking about pickleball right now.
Can I respond? So again, when I mentioned before that Lion Ranch pickleball, I was not advocating we don't keep that. I was just saying we should approach this from the perspective of, is there any low hanging fruit here where the proponent is saying, like one you mentioned, they're okay with withdrawing that or defunding it. So I brought up the pickleball, not to say we should defund it. I think those are the ones we should focus on. I think the point of order, I think that the safety issue we talked about was for this year's projects. Because we were trying to be cognizant of what the city needed to get done and the limits because of the budget, structural budget deficit. So I don't think that's like pervasive in everything we do from here forward. Maybe that's a part of the discussion here, but yeah. I just wanted to, respond on that.
Okay. So I mean, my response would be, it should be, and I think it always has been. So I don't recall if there was a specific discussion related to this process. We certainly have always talked about prioritizing safety. So I think we didn't have that discussion, and we should now that we should prioritize safety.
Okay, my turn. And Reggie's back. I want to say that this is hard on all of us because we have more meetings, but it's also hard on the city staff. And I think Reggie's done a great job, and I appreciate the work he's done. And I think it is confusing. It is extra work. We meet some other times, and sometimes we don't remember what you laid out in the numbers that tell us where things are. So I appreciate your putting up with this whole process because it's a bit. I want to thank everybody in the committee and the public who's come out and made comments for us to help us with this process. Thank you.
All right. Any other closing comments, Hans?
So I have one thing I was asked and that wasn't clear that maybe we can talk about is in future years, how are any frozen projects or so forth going to be dealt with? Are they going to be automatically submitted again? One thing I worry about a little bit is that we might recommend that they take out money out of future, but I worry they're going to be taking that money out anyway in the future if the city needs it real bad. But I would like us to think a little bit about the frozen projects, how they're going to be handled in the future in the following years, and that we kind of establish that so we can explain that to the public as well. So thanks.
Any other final closing comments?
I just want to say, this process just kills my accounting heart. We have spent a lot of time and energy, staff has spent a lot of time and energy, literally billable time and energy, and a lot of non-billable time and energy to get all these here. They have, some of these have been here for years. We have really fought through these. We have fought against those headwinds. And so to be put in this position again is extremely wasteful. And disappointing. And I think we need to understand the money that hasn't been allocated is there, it's on the table. And I hope we can find a way to make that clear, that these are all important.
I just wanted to voice the support for Taneri's earlier suggestion, because I think we've been given a directive and I think we're duty bound to do that directive. And of course, what happens is at the will of the city council. But if we can accompany that with, as you said, a statement of position, I think that at least makes it clear we've done what you asked us to do, and here's additional information. So I think that's a good compromise approach.
I seek clarification on one of your comments. At the next meeting, you requested a discussion on the position statement. I just want clarification. We have 2 more meetings budgeted, and I'm starting to hear people are honing in on prioritizing safety projects and maybe deprioritizing others where that doesn't have the support of the nominator. At the next meeting, is this discussion, would we be ready to vote, or do we want to have one more discussion before the vote? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get clarification on that.
That's added to the 28th. That's the last meeting, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and close committee comment, and we will have our next meeting on January 21st, 2026. And I will call the meeting adjourned at 7:36 p.m.
Now I get to work.
Okay.